Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monika Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks. Hi, and welcome back to another week of Astro Chat with myself, Kimberly Williams, Monika Anna, and Anne Sundell. Excited that you could join us as we talk about this beautiful new moon and eclipse energy. Before we dive in, a moment of transparency. So we're all recording and we are here and we are connecting not in our normal zone. I am recovering from a stomach bug. Monika is on vacation in Poland, so thank you for getting some Wi-Fi and joining in. And Anne is home, but also pet sitting with her fur babies. So we may have some interruptions, and we may get some cameos from some of the fur babies. And who knows if the technology will behave, but hopefully it will all go well, as it always does.
Well, we will be talking about Uranus on that new moon, so expect unexpected.
There you go. That's right. That's right. The new moon is happening on April 30th, which is a Saturday. In Greenwich Mean Time, that's going to be 9:28 p.m. Of course, for those in Finland, that's 2 hours later, so that's going to be 11:28. And here in Central Time Zone of the United States, that's going to be 3:28 in the afternoon. So it's one of those that we're all experiencing on the same day. I like that. I don't like it when it happens late at night and we wind up on different days, you and I. So so this is great. And we've talked before about new moon energy. If you go back and listen to some of our prior podcasts, we usually start off talking about the new moon. And our first 2 or 3, we really emphasized the work that can happen with new moon in general, regardless of the sign that it's in. Here we're going to have it at 10 degrees, 28 minutes of Taurus. And so a lot of that new moon energy about what are we going to start? What are the seeds that we're planting? What is it that we're visualizing? What is it that we are embracing? Is going to have a Taurus theme. And I think, Monika, you're going to start us off talking about some of the Taurus and other signatures of this new moon.
The new moon, new energy, new ideas, new desires, new intentions can be set for the energy of the Taurus. And Taurus energy is linked to the earth. It's the earth element in the zodiac. It's fixed earth as well. So it's about earth, literal earth. It can be anything from, I will start new garden center, or I will start planting, some herbs and vegetables in my flower pots at home. But it's also linked to metaphorical earth, to our body, to our food, to food production, to sustainability, to how we sustain ourselves and our bodies. What do we consume on so many layers? So the new moon energy can help us set intentions for looking after our physical bodies, after the body of Earth as well. And in metaphorical sense as well, it can help us set new intentions for the body of work that we create, for example, or for the place and land that we feel safe, whatever that means to us. It doesn't have to be a physical land that I have a ranch or I have, a few acres of land, but the land that I feel safe and secure. It might be a land of your ancestors. It might be a land where you move. I moved to another country. So today I'm recording from Poland, which is my homeland. But for the past, nearly 2 decades, I lived in another country that became my home. And that land, that connection with that land, it's very important to me. So new moon energy can help us bring those new connections and bring those intentions to connect to the land that we live in. What I'm thinking as well is, especially for people like myself who are transplants, who moved to another country, who are living on the land that is not the land of their ancestry, that might be a beautiful new moon to connect with the spirit and the history of the land that they live on, and forge new connections and forge that stability that Taurus offer around that. Land, I guess, for the lack of a better word.
You got me singing now. I can't stop singing.
Why?
You said that, and there's a song that we learn in elementary school here, right? This land is your land. This land is my land. From California, and it's all about how large the United States is, and like as you're saying that, I'm here. I'm like, yes, it's the land. But now all of a sudden, I have this. So if I got this big goofy smile on my face, for those of you watching us on YouTube, it's because I have this tune now going through my head. I will try to focus a little better.
Do you want to add anything for the new moon in Taurus before I jump into something else?
Yeah, I think I thought about loyalty. I think about this fixed signs, and I think about this new moon to maybe highlight also what things you really feel that you want to stay loyal to, that you really want to focus on. That can be one thing to think about.
Yeah. I'm going to throw in before you jump on, Monika, too, that, this to me is my favorite new moon of the year, because the moon is exalted in Taurus. Every month I'm always looking for when is the moon going to be in Taurus. So here it's that new moon. So it's really, for me, this idea of opening up to abundance, opening up to our sensuality. I think Taurus is very much about feeling it. It's that excitement. It's ruled by Venus, so it's that desire energy that you feel in your body. Like when we want to go out to have a fine meal, and it's not just food, it's an experience. You start to salivate just thinking about it. It's that kind of, it's juicy, it's exciting. And so I'm thinking that there's a bit of a push-pull, because like you mentioned earlier, Taurus wants to hold on. It is a fixed sign. And yet here we have that new moon that says, what am I starting? So I think it might be useful to really look at, what is it hard for me to let go of? And is that maybe slowing down what I'm going to start? Really embracing the what do I want to begin can be hard for Taurus. But if the moon is exalted, and if we're feeling it, what do I get excited about? What is it that, they talk a lot in different groups I'm in about somatic knowledge, like your body has knowledge, your body knows. So getting out of our heads, getting into our body, and really feeling what is calling us to begin.
I love that you mentioned the sensuality of the Taurus, because again, Taurus rules those five senses. It's experiencing world through the taste and touch and sense of smell, and really taking it all in. And the new moon, again, we can explore that. We can explore, do we see the world only through one sense? Do we especially in such a busy world that we live in, we sometimes rush so quickly that we forget to actually take notice of the signs that our body's giving us. So 6 hours or 8 hours later, you get up from your laptop, and suddenly you can feel that your body is so tense. For 8 hours, you are so concentrating in your head that you forgot to notice that your muscles in your neck, in your shoulders, they all tensed up, or in your jaw, that they all tensed up because you were busy doing something, or you didn't feel that your stomach was, grumbling for some food. Or we all do forget about our five senses, especially when we sit in our heads. And I love that Taurus is that sign that brings us back. And funny enough, this is the sign that I actually linked a lot to mindfulness, being in that moment. When you smell a flower in that moment, you are not living in the past or in the future. You're there in that moment, enjoying the beauty, the scent of that flower. So for me, Taurus is also very much linked with the practice of mindfulness. If you want to go deeper into that practice, the best way to do it is start scanning your body. The body scan, such a lovely technique to see, where is it? How do I really feel? And new moon, again, can be that invitation for you to, hey, maybe I should start a practice of mindfulness and actually get reconnected with my body. Because like Kimberly said, when we live in our heads for so long, we get disconnected, and our body holds that tension. Our stomachs hurt when we worry about something, or when we're jealous, or when we're stressed, we hold that in our shoulders. So our body does somatize those emotions. Why not get friendly with our body and actually get to know it and slow down and really ask ourselves, do I really get connected with the sense of hearing? When I go through the forest, am I in my head so much with the planning and thinking and thinking about the past or worrying about the future that I don't even hear the bird song? Or if I'm going by the sea, I don't really hear the waves because I'm thinking about something else that I need to do in 5-10 minutes. So yeah, actually getting in touch with the body as well. That's a lovely new moon. But what I wanted to bring as well, because I'm so excited, I love the Taurus moon, but then again, I'm biased. My own natal moon is in Taurus, so hey, this is the bias. But I think it's a lovely, lovely moon. And it's so gentle as well. It can start things, but in a really gentle way. With this new moon being so close to the planet Uranus, there's only 4 degrees conjunction, so it's actually a very close conjunction. I think this is something that can help us break free. New moon, and especially Taurian moon, can be very fixed, can be very stubborn, can be very, I will not move, I will not yield. Where the Uranus can come in and can break through that, and like the lightning from the sky can break that tree in half, can break something. That new moon has that quality. It has the quality of expect unexpected. It can be physical, electric things going on in your body. So what I've noticed that I've started getting as well, a lot of the electric shocks in my body. But then again, my moon is actually connected natally with the Uranus as well. So I do feel that tingling, that kind of electric current that runs underneath your skin when you sometimes feel like you're buzzing. Again, those are the words for moon in Taurus and with that Uranian energy. And it can be, it can bring the feeling of that freedom, that ultimate freedom and bit and breakthrough and need for that radical freedom around Taurian issues. So freedom around our bodies. Do we feel that our body, that we have autonomy over our body? It can bring the need for freedom around our food, sustainability. Am I sustainable at home? How is my food supply? Is it actually something that I feel free to go and buy, or are there limitations on that? It can be very radical and unconventional. Maybe something to do with your body that you always wanted to do, and it might be unconventional. I don't know. Maybe it's a new tattoo that you wanted to do, or something unusual, but it has that kind of quality of breakthrough. And as much as Taurus is that fixed, grounded, I will not move sign, it also has this quality of when it gets going, there is no stopping it. It's like the bullfight, that goes for that red thing. it will go for it. There is no stopping it. There is no slowing down. There is no turning around. There is no, it will go for it. And that's the quality, I think, with that Uranus as well. That, so I am actually, you can probably hear in my voice, I am actually excited about that. A bit apprehensive, but excited.
I'll echo the apprehensive side. I'm excited, but I have a lot of trepidation about this Uranian energy. I think for me, Uranus is always first and foremost about getting in touch with our authentic self. That all of it's what, as you were mentioning, this breaking through the chains that hold us back, this idea of freedom. Ultimate freedom for me is getting in touch with the authentic self. And I believe we're all born our authentic self. We know at our core who we are, but there's been layers and layers of conditioning throughout our life or lifetimes. And so sometimes it's that unlearning who I've conditioned myself to believe I am, to be in touch with who I am, is kind of some of that journey. And here we see all this Taurus energy. And, Uranus has been in Taurus since what, 2018, was it? So we've it's not totally new, but now it's happening on this new moon. It's happening conjunct to this new moon. I really am thinking there's potential here for radical insight, because radical is another buzzword I tend to associate a lot with Uranus. Radical insight about what am I conditioned to hold on to? So this idea of radical insight, I think, is so key, because what have I been holding on to? That Taurus energy of what am I holding on to? What am I afraid to let go of? What is the thinking of the ox and the yoke and the plow, and what is it that I've told myself I haven't finished or completed, and I cannot let go of this? Either I need it for safety, or I'm committed to and I must see it through. Sometimes the biggest chains for me in my life are the ones I've created. It's not necessarily the ones that are imposed upon me. It's the ones I believe I need, and so I'm now committed to not making a change because either the fear or the what I think I need to have. So I'm very hopeful that Uranus will bring some, like I said, radical insight to what is it I need to let go of? What is it I need to start? And that means, what do I need to release so that I can begin again and I can kind of make that fresh, new launch into something.
That is awesome.
And we have a solar eclipse on the new moon. So this makes it even more interesting and special. Is the first solar eclipse in Taurus of this season. It started with a lunar eclipse back in November, 27 degrees of Taurus, and now we have the first sun eclipse, partial eclipse in Taurus. So eclipse season is often quite loaded with interesting happenings. I mean, I feel that eclipses have always been some kind of supernatural happenings. I mean, you understand in the ancient world, when suddenly the daylight disappeared or something, how it must have felt like supernatural to them. I mean, I heard that, for example, when Jesus was crucified, everything became dark. There should have been an eclipse about that time. Very interesting. And these eclipse moments have also been a lot of insights for society, for the humanity. New things, like a new portal opening, giving us possibility to insights. So this is a very interesting time, together with that Uranus, together with the North Node. So maybe a step forward.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting that it's all happening with the Taurus. So we have the new moon, we have the Uranus, and we have the eclipse. And all happening obviously at once. Well, eclipse would happen obviously at the new moon or the full moon. But the Uranus being there as well, it brings that energy to yet another level. And eclipses for me are always the times of the crossroad. So those are the moments where we have eclipses happens in pair. So obviously you have the pair where the north node is in one sign and the south node is in another sign. And when the lunation happens around the north or south node of the moon, that's where the eclipses happen. So usually we have a 2-year period of eclipses being in the same sign. So if you want to find out what the themes of this eclipse season might bring for you, look at eclipse season from 2012, 13, 14. It's usually the eight-year cycle. So the last eclipse actually in Taurus, around 8 degrees of Taurus, was in 2014. But that whole cycle started November 2012. So it was November 2012, which started with Scorpio, and then it finished in 2014. So again, that was, if you look back at your life, those themes around that time of late November 2012 to April, May 2014 might actually resurface again. You might see the same themes, because this would be happening not only the same signs, obviously, but it's the same houses of the horoscope. So it will touch the same areas of life in your own personal natal chart. And I always find that eclipses are like the nexus points. They kind of bring the crossroads. They kind of bring the questions around the themes of the sign and the house that they exist. And we have opportunity to break through the usual cycle, the usual path that we're on, and have an alternative path opening up for us. And it might be a chance for us to take it, or it might be a chance for us to say, no, not yet, I'm not ready yet. But those are the moments where something else is opening up. And with the North Node, the difference between the North Node and the South Node eclipse, I don't know for you ladies, but for me, is North Node usually brings something new and brings the new opportunities, new situations, where the South Node is helping us to let go of something. So South Node usually closes things, finishes relationships, closes the jobs, finishes something. Where the new moon, when the North Node eclipse, it usually brings something new. Again, nothing is good or bad. Sometimes it's good to finish something and not necessarily good to start something, but it's the kind of that's the difference in quality for me, as a huge general rule. As we know with everything, there's always an exception from that. So the North Node eclipse in Taurus, I would expect breakthroughs around our body, beauty standards, bringing the harmony and balance into our lives, and maybe asking ourselves question again. It's an eclipse, so it is that point of transition. How do I feel about my body, the land that I live on, the place where I feel secure, my material stability, my financial stability? How do I feel about that? And can I change something? Can I choose a different path? Is there a crossroad? Is there a path opening up for me that might be different, unexpected, unconventional, maybe a bit radical? And am I ready to go and follow that path?
That's so beautiful. Yeah, I agree totally. I like the way you say that for you, the eclipse is sort of that crossroads point. Similarly, for me, eclipses are about times of change and transition. And what I love the most about eclipses is the cycles within cycles. You know, as you mentioned, like every 8 years, we're going to see, give or take, every 8 years, we're going to see the eclipses happening in the same pair of signs. So it's each pair of eclipses, we're going to see that eclipse season happen for about 1.5 years, right? This is the first, let me back up for 1 second. This is the first eclipse we're having where the nodes are actually in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. Because even though we had the eclipse in November, as Anne was mentioning, right? Back in November, we had our very first eclipse in this pair of signs. The nodes were still hanging out in Gemini Sagittarius. They hadn't shifted yet. That didn't happen until January. So for me, that was sort of, yes, we have an eclipse in Taurus, but it was sort of foreshadowing. Now we have this eclipse in Taurus and the nodes that are so important to the eclipses, that dictate when an eclipse happens, because the lunation's happening conjunct one of the nodes. So here we are having it in. It's like full on, all pedal to the metal, and let's like take this full speed. So I think there's a lot of energy around this because we're really getting in from to the meat of what's happening. For me, the solar eclipses are very much about the conscious side of change I need to make, whereas the lunar eclipses are much more about what has to happen unconsciously. Here with the sun energy, with the solar eclipse, is like, what do I need to see? What do I need to change? And so again, I'm going back to this Taurus energy of what have I been holding on to that does not serve me? And it's time to make a change. And maybe that means, what am I releasing? What am I changing? What am I letting go? Monika mentioned how a lot of this is about body energy. And I would so agree, because I think here we can really get to those deeper things that maybe have stopped us from making change. Let's just say, hypothetically, 8 years ago, you were like, yes, I joined a gym and I was going to make change and I was going to get in touch with my body. And a year and a half of eclipses in Taurus Scorpio, and it didn't happen. And here I am, and back at it again. Well, each time we come up to these pair of signs, I believe we're building some momentum. We're building incentive. We're going in. It's like stringing pearls, making a pearl necklace. Each set of eclipses, we're going back and putting a new pearl on that strand and working it a little deeper. But here with the solar, we can really get to, well, what was the obstacle? Was the obstacle like I'm not comfortable with my body? Is the obstacle that, I got a Venus issue in my natal chart and I've got some dependency on food? Is it that there's emotional eating? Like, what is the obstacle that it's easy to say on the surface, I don't have time or something's happening, but okay, if we need to make a change and we're recognizing the change and it feels really radical and I'm now like ready to embrace the work of letting go and make the change. Okay, well, what's underneath all of these changes that maybe has made it hard, that I'm afraid of? Basically, let's do some shadow work is where I'm getting at here because let's not forget that although all this energy is in Taurus, it's opposite that south node of Scorpio. So maybe let's lift up the carpet and really look at what's underneath things that I need to face. What is some of the work I'm going to need to do so that I can make the change and make it stick? And we don't have to do it in a day, because eclipse seasons for me is the month before, the month of, the month after. And we're going to have another set 6 months from now. So like we're in a 1.5 year cycle of stepping back into what is your Taurus Scorpio cycle about that you did 8 years ago. And let's take that next few steps. So it can be huge, but it doesn't have to be each step feeling so huge. It's another step on this ever-going journey, I guess. That was a lot of babble, but thanks for letting me babble away.
No, but it was good because sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
Many people ask about eclipse season, how long time do eclipses affect me, or how long do I see effects of them? So I thought that was good because I see that maybe the week, maximum 2 weeks before, you can sense the energy building up, and then in between those two eclipses, the time in between them, that's going to be after this one until the next one. It's going to be quite interesting time where there might be changes going on, and you have to adjust things and look at the direction you want to go. So that's good, because the time from one eclipse might be up until the next one that's going to take place. Just the things, the happenings are heightened around those weeks, but it's still due until the next.
Yes, and I find it changes with the aspects too. For some reason, I find that when I'm dealing with the quincunx or any of the hard aspects, there's that longer period of there's a slower buildup sometimes, but with some of the conjunctions or the harmonious contacts, it feels like it's very pinpointed to those 3 weeks around it. So it's interesting to me how, in one chart you'll see the slow build, and in another you can see that suddenly something happens. And I do think there's a lot more action energy associated with the solar eclipses, where things come to light, poof, you have the revelation. It's like, now I see it. And so even though it might have been a slow build, I didn't see it, now I see it. And so it can feel like, it's not unusual for me to hear someone say, especially if the eclipse is very significantly hitting the planets in their natal chart, oh, it was the week of the solar eclipse when I got that new job offer. It was the week of the solar eclipse I decided to sell the house, even though maybe I've been thinking about it for the last year, but that's when we took the action. The conscious realization was happening. How long do you use, Monika, when you work with the eclipses? What kind of time frame?
So I'm very much like you guys. I think you can sense stuff coming for probably a month before and a month after. But then again, for me, any transit is like that wave. You can feel the wave build and then the wave break in the moment. And the same thing with eclipse. It's like no one decides to buy a house without even thinking about it. Those are very rare moments when you just like have a great job, great house, and then suddenly you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to go back to, I don't know, travel through Appalachian mountains, sell everything, quit my job. Like things like that build up. We might, again, going back to that, recognizing what's happening in your body. Your body is not just your liver and your heart and making sure that, you're taking your painkillers or you're taking your, I don't know, blood pressure medication. It's literally listening what your body, what your gut tells you. And I think this is what it is. It's like, we have those slow buildups of energy. The planets already moved in Taurus. The North Node is already in Taurus. The Uranus is already in Taurus. The Sun is slowly coming up in Taurus. So we have that Taurian energy, and we have those planets already there and somewhere in our charts. And then the moment they meet, that's the moment when we can have, like you say, those realization or of the decision making. But for me, I think it's very much listen to your body. I've noticed for myself, we're recording this, couple weeks before the full moon, before the new moon. I've already noticed that my body is getting more electric than usual. I mean, I always have those electric shocks. Like I said, my moon is connected with Uranus, and that's something that I'm always used to. But the other day I was trying to pet my cat, and I tried to touch her little nose, and the electric shock went straight from my finger into her nose, and poor thing got so scared. And I could actually feel it in my body. So I can already feel that kind of energy building up. I think, again, going back to, I know I'm repeating myself during this episode a lot, but there is something about listening to the wisdom of our body. Taurus is sometimes, for me, it's sometimes perceived a little bit negatively because it's all about material stuff. It's about earthy stuff. It's about slow and lazy and grounded. And it's the whole idea of, when we talk about Mercury moving through Taurus, very often that negative connotation is like, people being slow in thinking. I don't think that's quite that. Or, when we talk about change with Taurus, we say, oh, people, with planets in Taurus, with moon in Taurus, don't change quickly. And I always say, well, we change like the nature change. There is no stopping change, but it comes with the season. So we don't change like Aries. Oh yeah, I'm just full of energy and full of fire, and I'm just go like now, right now. Like I have to do it right now. No, that's not the Taurian energy. But the Taurian change is, you can't stop it. Like when the change starts, when that season starts changing or turning, there is no stopping of that. And I think that the Taurus and the seasons or Earth is really closely linked. And that's the beauty of that, recognizing that change sometimes happen slower. You might not see when the spring started. You can't pinpoint that moment, oh yeah, on the 1st of April, on the 30th of March, spring started. No, but one day you open your window, it's like, oh my God, it's blue sky, and the birds are singing, and you can smell the spring in the air. But that spring was creeping up on you for the last few days, clearing and changing and moving. And that's the beauty. And I think that's why the mindfulness for me is so linked with Taurus, because it's kind of stopping and every day recognizing that that sun is, rising a little bit earlier, or a little bit higher on the horizon. We have to be in the moment to notice that. So I don't know if I ask your question, if I answer your question.
You did. And you made me
ramble
think too.
on.
You made me think too how important that is, because we live in this instant society. Everything is go, 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 rapid movement, fire and air, and let's go and let's move. And there is power and there is strength in the fixed signs, right? There's power and there's strength in this idea of Taurus, of take it slow. Anyone who's done a slow walking meditation or Tai Chi or mindful eating, where you take 30 minutes to eat an orange because you're doing it very slow. That idea of getting in the moment, in our body, in this space, in this environment, and enjoying it for a prolonged period. There's strength, there's energy, there's power that builds, that can rise, that can crescendo. And so I think that's one of the beauties of Taurus, is it reminds us that, we are powerful beings, and we hold it in our skin, and as well as in our spirit. And there's a lot we can do, but often, as you say, we forget about that because people talk about Taurus's need for security and wealth and growth. And I don't know why, but in the Western world, it seems like the minute we start talking money, it somehow has to be a bad thing. And I hope that one of those radical insights is we realize money is a beautiful thing. It creates abundance, and we can do more of what we love. So yeah.
I agree. I mean, looking back, I'm going to bring the ruler of this eclipse and of this lunation. So ruler of Taurus is Venus, and she sits at 27 degrees of Pisces, close to Jupiter at 27 degrees of Pisces, and also close to Neptune at 24 of Pisces. And for me, and why I'm hopeful around this eclipse, as much as I am, I'm always a bit, not anxious, but warily excited. I don't know if that makes sense. Around eclipse season, because they bring so much changes. I have hope, because the ruler of this one, Venus, is in the sign of Pisces with Jupiter. And for me, that brings that kind of beautiful, soothing, watery energy of, where can I find meaning in all that? So if my world, cracks open because of that Uranian energy, and my stability cracks open, can I find meaning in that? Can I find beauty in that? Can I bring balance and harmony, even if something is changing, and sometimes radically, unexpectedly changing in my life? Can I feel with that Jupiter, that can I find meaning? Can I find trust? Can I trust in the changes and in the path that is opening up for me? So I think that's kind of a word, or the thought that I'll be bringing into that eclipse season for myself. Can I find trust in the higher meaning in my path? And if there is a crossroad for me, can I trust that I am guided? Can I trust that my spirituality, whatever it is for me, for you who listen, that you have that guidance within your own spiritual beliefs, that will take you to the best possible direction, to the best possible destination? That if something's unexpected happen, the path out of the blue opens up, the doors, one door's shut, and then another one opens that you didn't even see. Can you trust that if you walk through that door, something beautiful happens, that you will find the harmony, that you will find balance, that you will find maybe new sense of security, maybe new sense of belonging? You know, like again, Uranus in Taurus, for me, it's like going back to my, you know, me being a transplant and putting down roots in completely new land, in completely new culture. How do you find balance and peace and harmony in something unexpected and something new and something unconventional?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense. I feel like with that Uranian energy, I am a little bit in my head again. So I'm trying to go down to my body, but I feel like I'm a little bit discombobulated. That's one of my favorite words.
You make total sense to me. And I love
Oh,
hearing you
good.
talk about this hope and this optimism and this very Piscean energy. It's refreshing because I'm so used to you being very practical and kind of, you know, let's
Yeah, I
rip the
know.
Band-Aid off and let's get to the hard stuff. So it seems a little different, I think, tone wise, but it totally makes sense. And I think you
Yes.
articulate it beautifully. So just throwing that out there.
I haven't mentioned that Saturn square the nodes and Pluto try Mercury, but I'm not going to go there today. I want to concentrate on that new moon and that Piscean energy.
Yeah.
Again,
And
we have quite a lot of energy between the water and earth.
yeah, yeah, very receptive. And what do you think? I love hearing you talk about the fishes of Pisces. I struggle with Pisces energy a lot in my own personal world, being balanced with it. I love it and I can get lost in it. So I love hearing how you talk about it from that karmic perspective. What's your take on this lovely Pisces stellium?
Well, I think I'm biased with Pisces myself when I have the South Node in Pisces. Right now, I have a visitor of Neptune and Jupiter on my South Node. So that's very interesting stuff. When I look at Venus and Jupiter together, I always find that aspect like a luxury aspect. I call it the luxury aspect. If you wanna have something special, you wanna have something beautiful, you wanna have something maybe a bit expensive too. I mean, Jupiter wants to go over the top and take Venus with it, and yeah, I'm a babysitter right now too, so it affects my ability to talk about things. Um, but it's like Monika said, I think it's a good smoothering energy for that moon Uranus to have that fishes still a bit wary of getting lost in things, and with the Jupiter taking things a bit overboard is always a possibility.
Yeah,
It's true.
yeah.
For those who, sorry, I
Go
wanted
ahead.
to say for those who
Go ahead.
do not watch the YouTube, but they are on podcast, Anne's just having her little puppy on her lap. So clearly, someone needed some cuddles. Again, that's very Taurian, you know, that kind of sensuality and touch and being close to each other. But also, I wanted to point something out, and you mentioned to me, and I love that. I don't think I've ever heard that when you want to grow something, as in literally you want to grow plants or anything in earth, it helps when you have water in your chart. I remember we were talking about me, you know, being a keen gardener. It's a too strong of a word, but I love growing things, and I have loads of plants at home, and I always try to grow new ones. And we were talking about that. Yes, that's probably my moon in Taurus that needs that kind of a nature around, but also it's that water that we need to nurture and nourish what we're trying to grow. And I think with so much planets in Pisces and in Taurus, that's a brilliant combination for the new moon to actually put the seeds and nourish them with that watery energy, and grow something. So I think that's a really lovely energy.
It really is. I feel like it's also that saying of, you know, I am a spiritual being having a human experience. This idea of I don't have to. A lot of times with Pisces, there's that we'll talk about. There can be a tendency to want to escape, to leave this the pain of this physical world and get into a better place. I think with this, it's the opposite. I have the ability now to bring spirituality into my physical body, my physical space. I get to be that channel, that conduit that brings it down and plants it here on earth. You know, I don't have to choose between a physical life or a spiritual life. I get to have both. I get to, in my physical world, experience that spirituality. And I think this is key to something you mentioned earlier, Monica, about trust. This, which to me, all of this Pisces energy says, like, if I can really get in touch with what I believe, and it doesn't matter if what I believe is that there's healing in the earth, or if I believe in God, Goddess, all that is, or if I believe that my intuition is my perfect guide, or if I believe that chakras are energy sources, or if I just believe that doing some Tai Chi is good for my mind and my anxiety. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I put my belief, my faith in. And it isn't about it being something out there. It's about being connected to something I believe. And I think when we actually have belief, we can then more easily trust because we can let go of control, which to me is like this very Piscean vibe of these 4 planets, the stellium. Really, it's beautiful because it's also making a trine, as we've mentioned before, because we've had, you know, Neptune's not moving fast. We've been talking about a lot of Pisces energy the last couple of weeks. It's making a trine to that South Node in Scorpio. And what is one of the challenges we have with letting go of our, you know, fears, which is one of the things that can be about, is, well, I need to have a sense of control. Well, if I can believe and I can really be in it and I can bring that into my life and kind of walk the walk, not just talk the talk, as they say, okay, it's much easier to move forward. And I love, love, love when Venus and Jupiter are together in the same sign. You know, in traditional astrology, these are the benefics, the greater and the lesser benefics. They want to bring us good things. They want to work together. And so I think the key is, if I'm just trying to escape, or if I'm just lost in the big dream, or I'm swimming around and don't have something to focus on, it may not be so helpful, right? It can bring a lot of the overabundance. But if I have something I'm visualizing, if I have something I believe in, it could just be a feeling. It could be an idea. It could be something that I've you know, tethered, locked onto. Now, these 2 planets can really bring it into our life. It can bring forth the abundance of Taurus, because I have that spiritual belief of, you know, I am deserving the abundance that I am receiving. I don't know. I really like it, as you can probably tell.
I think it might be the saving grace of this eclipse, because we're trying to put the positive spin, and with every sign, with every aspect, you know, there is the positive expression of that energy. There's always a negative expression. So things that break down can be very positive, or they can be very damaging. You know, leaving a relationship or job can be incredibly freedom giving and liberating, or it can be, you know, incredibly damaging to us. So every energy has that that double side, and I try, and I think we all do in this episode, to concentrate on that positive aspect. And I do think that Piscean energy, everything that you just said, Kimberly, it's bringing that saving grace to that unexpected, liberating, breakthrough, life-changing energy of the eclipse in Taurus, and eclipse being with Uranus as well. I mean, those 2 together, I've mentioned that, I think, for I've been talking about it for the last 2 years or something, when I'm like, Taurus, Taurus energy with Uranus is interesting, but when the nodes will shift, it will be even more interesting, because you have two strong energies that talk about changing our path or changing the life direction, and they will be sitting in the same sign, which is always like double whammy. But I do think that the Venusian and Jupiterian energy from that Pisces can bring that soothing. But it is all about holding on to beliefs. If you have a strong faith, and again, like Kimberly just said, it doesn't matter what you believe in, but if you have that strong faith, is that enough for you? Like, can that carry you through the earth underneath your feet shattering, or the earth underneath your feet splitting open? Because that, Uranus in Taurus can feel like this. It's literally the earth beneath my feet just split open and I'm falling. And, what am I holding on to that when my world is turning upside down? Sometimes what you need to hold on to is that belief, is that trust that I am falling and I'm going to get caught.
Good point. Yeah. What is our lifeline? If it's not something I can believe in, if it's only the what I can see and touch, there could be some challenges there for sure.
Yeah.
So before we move into tips, are there any, because we were mentioning earlier as we were looking at all the things we could spend hours talking about with any given chart, but especially this one, any other, like, not a deep dive, but just any other mentions of things that you wanted to point out? I'm going to throw out there that Anne said earlier, like, Pluto is officially stationed now. And I'm thinking this could mean that everything we talked about, the beautiful and the scary, is extra scary because Pluto has stationed. So all of these changes probably are going to bring up some fears.
Yeah, it brings additional depth to it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe also some kind of turning point a bit on of what's going on, and we can see that there's maybe a new direction in some way. I think that stationing Pluto has been involved in many special happenings worldwide.
Yeah.
I think, like we said earlier in the previous episode, Pluto is about transformation and transition. And here we are, solar eclipse, which is the time of transition, and the new moon, which is the time of transition and starting new cycle. So this is really a new moon on steroids, on high, on, double whammy and whatnot, because of all those layers of new beginnings and transitioning and breaking through and going deeper and finding out. Saturn, we mentioned that in the previous episodes as well, Saturn is still squaring the nodes. So again, we have that layer of accountability and responsibility and structures. And in Aquarius, so maybe, new structures or unexpected structures around communities that we are part of, that can be, again, altering our path. So it's interesting new moon, I have to say. Yeah. I can already feel it, and we're recording it, a couple of weeks before the new moon, and I can already feel that energy, that trying to scramble my brain.
Yes, and speaking of scrambling the brain, let's not forget that Mercury, I'm a very mercurial girl, Mercury has just ingressed into Gemini. It's at 0 degrees 48 minutes of Gemini when this happens. So, like, literally on the heels of this new moon, Mercury's going into that very linear in our mind. So I think, what is our talk about? Both our outer word, what are the words we choose to use could be so important here, as well as our inner self-talk. If I am believing that I live in abundance, are those the words I'm using? Is that what I'm communicating to the universe and receiving, or is that what's happening in my mind and what I'm telling myself? So, I think it's very intriguing to see Mercury going into this air sign with all of this very watery, earthy energy that's happening. So I think being careful, or at least consciously aware of the words we use so that they are mirroring the abundance we want to flow, or the energies we want to flow, is going to be important.
I love that you're bringing Mercury, because it's connected with Pluto as well. And I believe in mythology, that was the only god that could go between Olympus and Hades, the highest realm and the lowest, without any problems. Whoever needed to go into Hades had to go through all those kind of gates of hell and perform all the rituals, and not turning around or stripping naked or whatever it was. Mercury, and in older mythologies, Mercury is the only trickster god that could go high up and low without any restrictions. And Mercury in Gemini, it's the kind of, again, bringing that idea of two different paths or two different choices. You know, the Gemini is always like, you know, we can go this way and we can go this way. And Mercury for me as not only just the thinking and communicating, but also traveling, both in our minds and literal travel. I can have two paths open to me. I can have two choices. I can agree to two different contracts or two different opportunities. So there is this kind of layer of connecting with the Pluto stationary. So there is that depth of transition and transformation. And there is, again, yet another layer of everything that we've spoken to, of different paths opening. So I am really curious what will happen in around end of April for us personally, but also for the audience that are listening to this, and for the world in general, because it does feel like this new moon will bring a radical change, and there will be two options to choose from, at least two options.
And I agree. And what I really like is when Mercury's in Gemini, I think it's a beautiful prime opportunity for us to change our thinking from either or to and both. You know, I think a lot of times it's hard to make a change because, well, okay, I'm a very mercurial girl. So for me, it's real easy to get into the either or mentality. I totally soak that up. So either I'm going to stay in my stable job that gives me the money I need to be secure, or I'm going to go become a full-time astrologer. There's no middle road. And for a lot of people, I think it tends to be this: either we're going to save our money or we're going to take that family vacation. But it's easy to kind of do the pros and cons and see things as two options that somehow are opposed. But when Mercury's in Gemini, right, that trickster energy, we can start to see where there's intersections between things. And what about and both? What about I'm going to take that vacation and I'm going to save some money? Maybe we modify where we're going. Maybe we start to see the ways that things don't have to be theoretically opposed. They can actually support each other and work together if we start thinking outside the box, which just supports where we started off with talking about Uranus. Yeah. So here's the out of the box thinking on the heels of this new moon.
That's awesome.
And any final thoughts before we move into our tips and tricks?
I just think it would be really awesome if people would like to write and tell their experiences of this season, and if they experience what kind of energy before this new moon and eclipse. That would be really nice.
Yeah, if you listen to that and if you're so inclined, please do share with us. It would be lovely to hear your thoughts and your experiences. I'm sure there will be loads of interesting stories around this eclipse season. I'm counting on it.
No doubt. And
yeah,
I love hearing too, because that's how I continue to learn, is hearing other people share their impressions, their thoughts, their wisdom, or just their stories.
This is how this actually podcast started. It's just three astrologers, three friends, sharing their own take on astrology and experiencing all those astrological transits in our own charts and sharing that information. And we thought, well, why not bring it to a larger audience? But I am happy to move on to the tips, yes. If that's all right. So for me, there are two quick ones. As mentioned, if you want to know what this energy of the eclipse can bring for you, have a look at 2012, end of 2012, 2013 especially. What was happening in your life around that time, what things were coming up. So what I'll be doing, I'll be probably looking through my journals, through my diaries, having a look at what was happening around that time, and whether or not I can bring some wisdom into this eclipse season that I've gained 8 years ago, or maybe some closure coming up for me this time, something that started 8 years ago. So that's one thing that I'll be doing. The other one is around the eclipse season, I personally don't do any new moon wishes or setting up intentions, because for me, the eclipse energy is the energy that I don't work with, it works with me. So this is the energy where I allow to happen rather than I create. So for me, this is the time of going into the meditation, into listening to myself, to my body, looking out for how the universe is trying to communicate with me. So instead of setting up my intention to universe, the eclipse season usually is for me, it's like, okay, what is the communication that universe has for me? So it's the kind of reverse of the normal new moon cycle for me. So I'll be sitting in meditation and trying to because I am Taurus and very fixed, trying to allow the space for the unexpected to emerge in my life. Allow that trust in me that it doesn't matter what's happening around me, I am safe and contained within myself, within my own heart and within my own beliefs. So this is what I'll be doing during this eclipse season.
Awesome.
I can share that.
And what about you?
Yeah, actually, my tip connected a bit with what Monika said about the how the eclipse energy worked with her instead of her working with that energy. So I think that during especially the sun eclipse is connected to the vitality of the body and of the energy level. And I think it's good to boost yourself a bit before, also to rest. Like to allow yourself to rest if you feel that you're more drained of energy than usual. Also, if you want to take some extra vitamins or go out for some walks in the sun, just feel the energy you need and feel your energy level and allow yourself to relax. With that Venus Jupiter conjunction, maybe you want to spend something on a bit of luxury on yourself, or that might be something you like to do, depending on your wallet. But still, just be kind to yourself and let yourself relax if you feel the need for it.
So important.
I'll take that tip.
Yeah, I'm gonna make notes here so I can put that on my calendar. I'm doing some body talk work. I think that it is, as Monika mentioned in the beginning, it's so easy for us to get in our heads and be very tense and not always talking to or listening to our body. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has to go do deep, humongous somatic healing and do that deep shadow dive. It's certainly a good time for it, but also just those first steps. Whatever it is we do, how can we take it to the next layer? So for me, I'm going to embrace listening to my body tell me where I sense joy. Where does my body feel this juicy delight? Because how am I going to be open to receiving from the universe those messages of where I'm supposed to be moving to next if I'm not able to actually kind of feel that? It's almost like when people do, muscle testing and their body leans towards something, or you're in an exciting conversation and you lean in, right? Our body actually knows. So for me, it's about getting in the kitchen and cooking, doing something very Epicurean, feels very Taurus, and I'm going to be using the days before to really just be open to, what do I desire? What, Venus, Jupiter, what do I desire in my life? And then letting my body kind of, without using language, talk with my body. So if I desire more fire and more passion, I might do a meal that's all with red and hot chili. If I desire more spirituality, I might do some fruit and create the goddess and then eat her, which is like something I love to do. It's so symbolic. I think it's this symbolic language that food can be, right, as a way that we can actually talk to and feel and kind of opening up of that channel and remembering that the body isn't just a vehicle that gets me through the day. She's beautiful and she's my temple, and there's a lot of juiciness that flows that she wants to communicate to me. So kind of opening up that dialogue using food, because hey, food is love, right? So I'm going to play with my food and use that and see what comes forward as a result of opening that conversation.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Cool.
Well, I think at some point we need to do a impromptu podcast where we just check in on how some of our tips have worked for us. Because I want to hear how all of these go for you, and I want to hear from our audience how they go for them. So maybe if people actually put some comments, it'll encourage me to respond back and remember to kind of report back of, hey, what came from this great idea? What was the radical insight that popped? So hopefully we can all share.
Well, we have plenty to share since Uranus moved to Taurus full stop. I think it affected all of us quite radically. So I am really, really interested how this eclipse will play on that as well, because the last 2 years, again, that's another tip, maybe just to finish off. Uranus moved to Taurus in 2018. And I think for us, it changed a lot in our charts.
Yeah, that's when I met you
already.
both.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think that's when the idea of the podcast actually first came about. So this eclipse will trigger that transit as well. So everything that's been happening in your life as well over the last 2 years, and the area of life that is Taurus, is that Uranian, brings that Uranian energy. That's something that might be even more highlighted, even more triggered. So yeah, I'll be really interested to observe that and see what happens for us as well.
All right.
Not long to go.
No. All right. So I look forward to hearing how it works for both of y'all and for our viewers, and seeing what people are talking about in the following 2 weeks. We'll be back again 2 weeks later with our next chat to talk about the following full moon and the lunar eclipse that we'll be experiencing in May. So be sure to check back in for that. In the meantime, everyone be well and take care.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.